deaths here could sadly rise.
I know there are so many people in Jamaica, all over the world, that I know your heart is breaking because you've not heard from your families. And so please know that the government is doing everything we can to get to them.
But for some here, that help is not arriving fast enough. Martha Kellner, Sky News, Lacovia, Jamaica.
Let's take a look at how that story is being covered in the newspapers. The clean-up efforts feature on the insides of the metro. Their headline, Heavy Toll of Hurricane Melissa. The Eye also focuses on that story, looking at where the hurricane is due to hit next. Let's get the thoughts of Liam and Cindy once again. Only featuring in a couple of the newspapers, inside the newspapers, nothing on the front pages, and fairly surprising considering the Jamaican Prime Minister describes the scene as total destruction. Liam.
And particularly, you know, when you think about the incredibly strong links between the UK and Jamaica, we know that there will have been many people from the UK visiting family over there, so much so that the government has had to charter specific flights to help British nationals leave Jamaica in the wake of this absolute devastation. And just seeing from your report there, it's you know, we're still waiting to find out about the death toll, and that will surely, sadly, rise. And it's not just about that, it's about those who are left behind picking up the pieces as well. The US forecaster AccuWeather estimated that the cost to the sort of, in terms of damages, the economic loss that rebuilding could cost is $22 billion. You know, there's lots of poor communities in the places that have been hit. It's going to take a massive, gargantuan effort to try and get these places back on their feet. But in the first instance, we obviously just have to think about the people who've lost their lives and been so traumatised in this. And of course, it's still going on. That's the really sad thing, is that as some communities are coming to terms with what's happened, the storm is continuing. And we know that from Jamaica, Cuba and Haiti have already been hit, but across the Bahamas and places like Bermuda are preparing for the storm to reach them. All we can hope for is that it's starting to lose a bit of its power and it's not quite reaching the wind speeds that it was when it, you know, was the strongest ever hurricane to hit Jamaica.
Cindy, are you surprised this still isn't on the front page?
Well, yes, considering how many Andrews we've talked about. I mean, I understand that Andrew is a British story. I think part of the reason that this is not picking up more attention is I think there is a tendency to see natural disasters as something that actually doesn't necessarily make for good news when it's not here, because it's a natural disaster, unless there can be something said about it being linked to, for example, climate change or international politics. I think it is hard for newspapers to front with it, but that doesn't mean it's not important. As Liam says, you know, there are such human devastation happening here. I think it just goes to show that actually sometimes this kind of story, you know, it's just devastating, but actually that people want to hear about the royals a little bit more, at least in this country, I mean. But I think
the point that Liam was making, that it also affects very many people in this country.
Well, I was just about to say,
you know, so many relatives that are...
Well, exactly, and the government has obviously trying to evacuate British citizens from Jamaica, but we also haven't heard anything really from the King, and actually the King is the King of Jamaica as well, and so, you know, this is the kind of thing that the UK probably should pay more attention to, but for various reasons that we just don't.
I'm not sure if we haven't heard from the King, actually. I thought there was a statement...
I'm not sure.
Yeah, there was a statement. I'm being told yesterday.
As we can see from the front, he's been quite busy with other dealings as well. But this should be, as you say, top of his agenda as well, because it's part of the Commonwealth. It's such the links are so strong between the countries, and there are so many British nationals affected. So yeah, I agree with you. I think it should be more present. I think the news has a tendency to move on quite quickly, but these people can't move on quickly.
No, and the hurricane is moving on, so the story continues heading to Bermuda, as you say. Thank you both for the moment. You are watching the press preview. Still to come. Nightmare on Downing Street following the Reeves rental row. Or is it? Stay with us to find out.
I saw police being forceful, pushing young men and women to the ground as they made almost 100 arrests. Will the cold affect your voters?
Well, we have a lot of tremendous support.
What country are you
From the UK.
Okay, we don't give a crap about your opinion and your reporting. Why don't you go back to your country where you have a major migrant problem?
I'm Martha Kellner and I'm Sky's US correspondent based here in Los Angeles.
I'm Stephen Murphy and I'm Sky's Ireland correspondent based here in Dublin.
The waters of Ireland and Britain should be home to great white sharks.
If there are great white sharks in this area, there's no reason they wouldn't come here to feed. It's basically a buffet on a beach. This could be not only a record-breaking storm, but potentially the most dangerous storm ever to hit Ireland.
There's always more to the news than a headline. We want to discover, to delve a little deeper, to find out what's really going on. Explanation, analysis, the people at the heart of every story. I'm Neil Patterson, and this is the Sky News Daily Podcast. So, by the end, we'll hopefully all understand what's going on in the world just that little better. Available wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back. Just want to bring you some breaking news, and that is that Sir Keir Starmer has told Rachel Reeves she faces no further action over her inadvertent failure to obtain a rental licence, even though it was regrettable. Emails about the arrangement had not been shared with him initially. This follows comments from the Prime Minister's independent standards advisor, who said he still believes that Rachel Reeves made an unfortunate but inadvertent error in her failure to obtain a rental licence, and that it was clear the Chancellor's husband did not recall being informed about the requirement for a licence. Well, let's see how the papers tomorrow are covering that story. The Metro says Keir Starmer faces another nightmare amid the Chancellor facing calls to be prosecuted for renting out her family home without a licence. Humiliation for Reeves. The Daily Mail highlights the Chancellor's admission that she and her husband were unaware they required a selective rental licence. The Eye says the Prime Minister retains full confidence in Reeves, with the Number 10 spokesperson confirming she will deliver the November budget. The Times reports the Conservatives have called on Starmer to launch a proper investigation into the case, which Kemi Badenoch said stinks. The Guardian reports the lettings agency used by Reeves has accepted responsibility for failing to apply for the licence and apologised. The Daily Telegraph says the Chancellor is facing cover-up claims and could have to pay back more than £38,000. Well, back to Liam and Cindy now for their thoughts on those stories. Many of them absolutely outdated at this point, really, Liam. But was she ever under any threat, do you think?
I don't think so, for a variety of reasons. One, politically, I think that it would take an awful lot for Keir Starmer to sack Rachel Reeves, particularly before, the most important budget she's probably ever going to deliver, and because their kind of dual roles in this government are so massively aligned, more than any other cabinet member, of course. But also, I just don't think that it was ever going to be enough of a scandal, however much the Conservatives and the Daily Mail may have wanted it to be, to actually oust her, particularly after, obviously, the developments today in which the letting agency basically kind of took full blame for it. They admitted that they gave assurances that the licence would be applied for, that they would do it. And I think that most right-thinking people, even if you don't particularly like Rachel Reeves, would say that's kind of fair enough. If a letting agency says, we're going to do that for you, you trust that they're going to do it, it's their domain, they should do. People might, if they've been really harsh, might say that she should have gone back and checked, but I think that is probably being a little bit harsh. And I think that some of these newspapers have been either, whether it's politically keen to have a go at it, or in some cases just keen to make some sort of Halloween-themed front pages work for the time of year. I think they're looking at maybe a little bit daft now, particularly with some of the other big news that's come out sort of throughout the day. So I think that news that you've just brought to us there, that Keir Starmer's kind of just, and the Standards Commissioner has just basically said it's over, I think that's probably the end of that story now.
I mean, it's important to say that Southwark Council itself, according to The Guardian, is saying that they're not going to take any action.
Yeah.
So the council's not taking any action. The emails show that the lettings agency have apologised, and now the Prime Minister is saying that he's not going to take any action. I think it does sound like, because Rachel Reeves came out with it and all of this has come out so quickly, she has, this hasn't become a drawn-out affair. Unlike Angela Rayner, arguably, because she denied it and there was so much obfuscation at the beginning of that process, I think it actually made it much bigger.
You get a feel for these things, and working in journalism with the Angela Rayner thing, I think we could all start to feel that this was going in one direction. I don't think I've ever really felt that with this story, and in fact it's only gone in the other direction really. And I think the Conservatives and Kemi Badenoch have to row back a little bit, because they've been desperately trying to cling onto it and say that it stinks. I mean, it doesn't stink. It's an inadvertent error. It clearly doesn't stink, and that's what has been found today.
Yeah.
The Prime Minister's independent standards advise, though, in that statement, seemingly blaming Rachel Reeves' husband.
Yeah,
for...
I know. Awkward around the dinner table, isn't it? I know, the people that have been dragged into this, Rachel Reeves' husband, this, small-time letting agency, have all been thrust into the national spotlight. But it does, again, just push the blame away from her.
I think it's an interesting feature of our politics, though. I feel like this kind of thing wouldn't happen in the US. You're an elected politician, you're in government for, let's say, a 4 or 5 year term. Unless you're re-elected, you have to move back to your family home. What do you do with your family home in the meantime? In America, this kind of stuff, one imagines, there are people who sort this out for you because this is what elected politicians have to do. In this country, it's almost quite quaint that our politicians are expected to go to their own lettings agencies, sort out their own licenses, even if she is the Chancellor.
Yeah.
I personally, as a voter, want my Chancellor to be doing more important things.
Do you think she ran a quick hoover around the flat?
Yeah, well, this is the thing. I just think, there are ways in which our, British politics could maybe make things slightly easier for ministers, because we know that the system is designed for them to temporarily vacate their family homes.
It's a good point. I put something out on social media today, and quite a lot of people said, I want the Chancellor to be focused entirely on the economy and the economic performance. I don't really want her having to deal with things like this. And I guess she didn't think that she had to, because she'd been given these assurances.
Well, she thought her husband was doing it.
I know, yeah. Let's put the blame on him. But I just think she's
But also, it's further complicated by the fact that not every council requires this licence to be bought.
In Liverpool, where I cover, it's been one of the first councils to bring in the landlord licensing. And by the way, I think it's a really important thing, and it's a tool that councils can use to drive up standards of, the private rented sector, which can be really, really shocking. But it's not only that not all councils do it, but there's selective areas of each council that do it. One slightly awkward thing was that Rachel Reeves put out a tweet saying that she really welcomed it coming in her constituency, which slightly muddied things and didn't look great. But on the whole, it's a good principle. But it is complicated. Not every council does it, and not every area.
A further thing that might give the story continued legs, apparently the tenants can ask for the money back that they paid in rent.
Yeah. So a lot of this stuff is about, even with the Angela Rayner case, it's about the complications in our rental market, the complications in our housing market, and politicians falling foul of this. Not necessarily because it's their fault, but actually what the lesson we take
lebih besar, mencapai 400.000 orang, sedangkan Malaysia hanya memiliki 51.600. Keunggulan ini diperkuat dengan
and 9 in Gyeongju, South Korea, where we begin this hour. As leaders of the Asia-Pacific region
teens use AI for companionship, and a quarter of them shared private and identified
I mean, despite all that, some parents, say that tech firms are always being reactive, rather than being proactive about it. They say, look, we need rules, we need legislation.
Yeah, and that's actually what's happening and starting to happen. In California, a new bill requires age verification protocols for self-harm intervention. But it's a fine line because a similar bill was vetoed before over fears that it might stifle innovation. So I guess the big question and the challenge is to strike that balance, the fine line. How do we keep young users safe? How do we protect them, but at the same time still let AI grow and thrive?
And this is the subject of discussions at all the forums, that have been taking place, including at the APEC Summit. And you can find out more on AI, more coverage, and how to navigate the emerging technology on our website, cna.asia, or on our mobile app. We will have news and updates after this break.